I have a friend of mine who I've known since I was 12 years old, and he and I have remained close friends all these years. We see each other regularly. He also married an Italian. So we really get each other really well. Scotty is he's a funny guy. He's a bit of an actor, a bit of a ham. And one of the things about him that I always admired is he is an incredible mimic. And he can do accents, and he can imitate people and things and situations. He does Bob Newhart brilliantly. But in our late 20s and or late teens and 20s, one of the things he mimicked the most were ethnic groups. He can mimic any ethnic group on the face of the planet. And I thought it was just hilarious. And not only mimicking the ethnic groups, he also attached a particular stereotype to the ethnic group that he was mimicking. And I thought that was hilarious. And I don't know what point in my life, I'm not sure what point in my life I got to when it changed, where it no longer was funny for me. I don't mean to sound as if I'm, holier than thou and that, I saw the light, but there was something happened along the way where it no longer became funny. And I told him it was no longer funny, and he stopped doing it. Our relationship has survived, and we're still very good friends, and he's still funny, but we never talk about issues of immigration. We never talk about issues of gay, LGBT issues, because he's also a homophobe. And we just stay clear of it. But I have reflected over the years why he, who grew up almost identically to me, in terms of our education, we met in school, in primary school, his family was pretty much the same as my family, kind of social economic status, all those kinds of things. I reflected about why he is that way, and why he, with countless others in our society, are that way. Canadians, for the most part, are, I think, extremely tolerant. We are adverse to stating clearly issues that might rattle the cage or cause controversy. We say sorry a lot. Issues that are deep-seated within us, we keep guarded and hide away, and that we don't tend to tell the truth about our feelings because we don't want to create conflict, which is all well and good on one level, but on another level, like my friend, underlying it is a deep-seated racism that exists and permeates his entire existence. I don't know what causes racism. I don't think. I don't know if it's because he's had a bad experience. I don't know if it's because his mom and dad, unbeknownst to me, were like that, and that's what they taught them. I don't know if it's fear of the unknown, and fear that by accepting others that may be different than you, everything in your world may change. I don't know what causes racism, but I know it exists. And I know there are more of us out there than we probably would admit in our neighborhoods, in our societies, and in the people that we encounter. And we are hearing it more and more these days regarding the issues of the Syrians, the tens of thousands of Syrians that will be here. And some of the stereotypes that I have been hearing of late have been quite astounding. You know, one of the things I'm not sure you're aware of is that Syria, prior to the war, had a standard of living that was not unlike Canada in terms of education, rates of education, the levels of income, in terms of the number of people who were graduating from university, and on and on and on. It really wasn't that different than us. And yet we have somehow stereotyped it as a country that is other than because it happens over there, and that kind of thing never happens here. So we have those who are decrying the fact that those people from over there are coming and going to be usurping our healthcare systems and our education and taking jobs that real Canadians should have, and on it goes. Without thought to the fact that we as Canadians are human beings and are called to acts of compassion and care. And that as Christians, we have a responsibility to love our neighbors as ourselves, regardless of circumstance. To spiral it down, I think it is about fear. It is about fear. That by virtue of us embracing the other, it makes us no longer something that is unique and special and important. Because we like as human beings, we like to hang with our own tribes. You know, we like hanging out with people that are like us. We like hanging out with people that think the same way we do. You know, we like hanging out with people that are politically the same, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. But underlying it all, there is a need to understand that that's okay, but it's when we step out of our tribe, out of our comfort zone, that we are truly tested and made to reflect on the fear that resides within. The fear that resides within. And that takes courage. And it takes self-reflection. And it takes the capacity to understand that we have a lot of personal work to do. There are two kinds of courage. There's a kind of courage that you hear about in the newspaper. When there's a puppy in the street and there's a bus coming and somebody runs out in the street and grabs the puppy and runs off the street and saves the puppy's life. Or jumps into a swelling river to grab the child that has fallen out of a boat, or you know the drill. Somebody who's done something extraordinary in the moment to ensure that someone is saved or looked after. You know, that kind of courage does take character. It takes a sense of self-confidence. It's kind of the one-off courage. And often you hear people say, you know, I'm no hero. Anybody would have done it. But what's surprising is that the people that do it often didn't know they would do it in the moment. The second kind of courage is a kind of courage that also is about character and self-confidence and a sense of self. And that's the kind of courage where you are confronted with something that may be uncomfortable. You're confronted with something that may be challenging. It may be that you are having to change the way you live, or that the outcome of your actions will garner a negative response, and that you will end up being rejected or shunned, or whatever the case may be. To stand by your principles and to ensure that the vocation for which you're being called in that moment, you continue regardless of what is thrown in your path. And that's another kind of extraordinary courage, to move forward and to believe in what you're doing is the right thing. To stand up for those people, like my friend who is a racist, to say, that's wrong. And let's talk. Let's no longer ignore the elephant in the room that's pounding his way around here. And that's the kind of courage that Jesus had in this scripture reading we had today, because Jesus was warned by the Pharisees of all people. And there were some good ones, Pharisees. We see them as negative, but they were good Pharisees. That Herod was after him. And the warning was, you better scram, you better get out of town because, Herod has got it out for you. There's a price on your head, and you will not have much time left if you continue on this path. And Jesus said, it didn't matter. I need to continue to do what I'm doing. And in the moment he said, I cast out the demons and to heal those that are sick and to look after the people that need to be cared for and to love them, regardless of circumstances and regardless of outcome. So he turned his face towards Jerusalem and he carried on his way, fully aware of the outcome, fully aware of what was to come, fully aware that he was going to have to confront someone like Herod. Now you think about Herod for a moment. Why was Herod after? Herod was after Jesus because Jesus was upsetting the status quo. Jesus was bringing something to the people that they desired and needed. And he was fearful that everything was changing. That all that he knew, the power base that he had, was under threat, under siege. So the best way to deal with it is to lash out at it, to get rid of it, to change it. We do it all the time. That which we are uncomfortable with, we lash out at, or attempt to get rid of, or do away with. But Jesus continued on his journey. He followed his vocation. He followed the path in which he was called. He sought to right the wrong and to ensure that all people were treated with equity and care and justice and love. And that's the message for us today. In the face of this extraordinary change, we need to confront our fears. Confront our fears. Sharing with you just recently in the last few days, we have been in touch. Or let me put it this way, Lynn has been in touch. When I said, Lynn, can I talk about this? She goes, yes, but it's us. I said, no, it's us collectively, but Lynn has been in touch with Zara. Zara is in Turkey. Zara knows nothing about Canada. Nothing. Her parents are putting pressure on her to bring them with her. Yet her parents are not on the list, the refugee list. She is now having to make a decision whether to come without her parents or not. She is full of fear and uncertainty. She is torn. Unlike probably any of us have ever been torn. Maybe some of you have been torn in that regard. I certainly have not. To make that kind of decision. To come to a place she knows nothing about and knows no one, to leave her family behind so that her children can have a future. And what the messages that have been relayed to her is that she will be cared for and loved and embraced, and that she will be safe, and it's going to be okay, and she needs to make a decision, and she needs to get on that airplane to come. She needs to put her trust and her faith in something. In the face of fear and uncertainty, and that niggly little voice that talks about those people that are other than, we need to put our faith and our trust in a God who is a God of all. A God of compassion and love and inclusiveness. A God who sees everyone and knows everyone like God knows every hair on our heads. So that we that have so much can embrace those who have so little as an expression of the faithfulness that we have as Christian people following the vocation that God has put before us. Thanks be to God. Amen.